Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 50th Space Wing Public Affairs Office. Woo! Yeah. All right. I'm Staff Sergeant Patrice Clark. This is the second of several interviews that we're doing showcasing some of Schriever's toughest. Last week we spoke with First Lieutenant Marciana Peace, who talked about her 365-day deployment to Afghanistan and how she was mentally tough for that. You guys made that an amazing interview by interacting on Facebook and asking your questions and really just making this a great interview. Well, we're going to continue with that theme and with the comprehensive airman fitness and talk today about social fitness. And with us, we have two members of Team Schriever who have made major impacts within the local community. We have Dr. Armand Boudreau, a cybersecurity engineer with the Missile Defense Integrated Operations Center, and Ms. Thea Wash, the deputy commander of the 50th Force Support Squadron. I'm very happy that you guys are with us here today.
Pleasure.
So, to start off, I want to tell you a little bit about why they were chosen to talk about social fitness. Starting with Dr. Boudreau's story, it began in early morning in March when he was just driving on I-25, and when he was driving there, it was dark. He saw a motorcycle in the right lane of the road, and he pulled over and he looked out his rearview mirror and noticed that there was a person in the road as well. Disregarding the safety, the fact that it's dark on the highway, he ran out there, he assessed the situation, he gave first aid, he pulled the man to safety, and then continued giving emergency aid until emergency responders showed up. And then he was also there to assist with getting the individual into the helicopter medevac out of there. He actually saved the life of an El Paso County Sheriff's deputy that day. Ms. Wash has touched countless people throughout her volunteer efforts with the American Red Cross. With the Waldo Canyon fire and the Black Forest fire, thousands of people were evacuated from their homes and taken to shelters throughout the city. Ms. Wash and her service dog Lacey, they were both there to offer just comfort and support that those folks needed at that time. When Ms. Wash is not helping people with disaster relief, she and Lacey can be found at the Evans Army Community Hospital on Fort Carson working with the Wounded Warrior Program. So again, I want to thank you both for being here. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, so to start, can you guys tell me a little bit about yourself, starting with Dr. Boudreau?
I'm here. Actually, I'm a retired military individual. I spent 30 years in the Air Force. Started out as a one-striper and went to a lieutenant colonel. Moved 17 times. Grew up in Rhode Island, West Warwick, Rhode Island. And then I came to Colorado and I didn't want to leave. And I love it here. So I do ski patrolling. I'm an avid cyclist, both road and mountain biking and all that. And I just kind of enjoy life.
Okay. Nice. Ms. Wash?
I am the deputy for the Force Support Squadron here and have the pleasure of serving the entire Schriever-based population in support programs and helping them and anything we can do on the work side. I'm a former high school teacher, a art and science teacher. Then I got into civil service. I've been in civil service for 30 years now. So it's my 30-year mark. I'm a spouse of a retired military member who was in for 23 years. So have a lot of experience on the military side as well.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I just want everybody to know out there that at any time throughout this interview, if you want to ask a question to Dr. Boudreau or Ms. Wash, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Schriever Air Force Base, and ask a question. We're going to get to those questions throughout our entire interview. So anytime you want to, just go ahead and ask a question. And we will start with our questions with Dr. Boudreau. Can you tell me a little bit about that night and kind of what happened?
Yeah, it was actually like
Morning.
4:30 in the morning. Typically, well, actually, I was on my way to ski patrol up in Ski Cooper in Leadville, and I get up usually like 3:45 in the morning, hop in the car, and then just drive out to Leadville. It's like 160 miles. But anyway, it's coming down I-25, and it was right next to the North Gate exit to the Air Force Academy. And I remember that because when I was on the side of the road, I looked over and I seen the sign that said exit 151. So, but anyway, I was driving down and I happened to see a motorcycle laying on the side of the road. And I immediately pull over, and as I was pulling over, I looked in the rearview mirror and I see this individual stand up and waddle out in the middle of stagger out in the middle of the highway and then fall over in the left-hand lane. So I immediately got out of my car, started running towards him, and before I could get to him, a car swerving to not hit the motorcycle actually ran over Andrew is his name, the police officer. So as soon as, and obviously there was a horrific scream there. So anyway, ran across the road, and the first thing in my mind was, I got to get this guy out of the road. And as soon as I approached the individual, I seen another set of headlights heading right towards us, and I jumped up and screamed and yelled, and probably about 20 foot from us, the individual actually seen us in the vehicle and swerved around us. So then I grabbed him and pulled him off the side of the road. And then right as I pull him off the side of the road, I look across this, out in the middle of the highway, and I see a gun. I said, oh my God, I just saved a guy with a motorcycle guy with a gun. But as I was, when I get him off the side of the road, I actually palpated, you basically touch every part of the body, try to figure out what's hurt and what's not hurt. And almost everywhere I touched him, I mean, he was hurting. The guy was really, really in bad shape. But anyway, when I was doing his pelvis, which actually was broken, he had a gun belt on him, and that's when I knew he was a police officer. So I asked him, are you a police officer? He said, yes. I said, your gun's out in the middle of the road. And first thing he says, got to get my gun. I said, I'm not worried about the gun, I'm worried about you. He's got to get my gun, got to get my gun. So anyway, I told him not to move. And in fact, when I met him in the hospital, the thing he remembers so much is do not move, do not move. Because obviously when you're in pretty bad shape, back, neck injury, whatever, you don't want to move because you don't want to complicate things. But anyway, I went and retrieved his gun, put it aside of him. And then he said, where's my gun? I had to put it in his hand, he had to put it in his holster. So, but I learned later on that obviously a police officer's main concern is his weapon. So I mean, you want me to tell you more? I can keep going. So anyway, another individual stopped. I asked her to call 911. And then another individual stopped, and I asked him to go across the road and get my patrol vest out of my car, because I had basically a whole medical kit in my vest, because like I said, I'm a ski patroller. And then rendered first aid to him, and really the critical thing was treating for shock. And basically what you want to do in that situation is you want to keep the individual calm. The blood pressure is rising, he's nervous about what happened, he's in a tremendous amount of pain. So you want to try to divert his attention away from that. And I call that treat for shock. So the gun was actually a good thing. The next thing is he had to call work. He was on his way to work for the El Paso Sheriff's Office, and he had to call work and told me he was going to be delayed.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was more distraction, and then he had to call his wife, and actually grabbed my phone and called his wife for him. And his wife, he said he was okay, but obviously he wasn't. So then finally the rescue team showed up, and then the helicopter came, and we loaded him in for the flight for life. But probably a little interesting tidbit on all of this was as we were wheeling him off in the gurney going in the helicopter, I told him that I was on my way to do ski patrolling, and that I was a ski patroller. And he says, I was planning on going skiing on Tuesday. I said, well, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I said, how about if I ski some runs for you? So we got, and actually we became friends, and I'm hoping that one day we can ski together when he gets better and all that.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's my story.
And it's a pretty great story. And Ms. Wash, with the Black Forest Fire and the Waldo Canyon Fire, the amount of hours that you and Lacey volunteered were tremendous. What were some of the things that you guys did with this?
Primarily during the first fire, which is the Waldo Canyon Fire, we initially opened up the evacuation center at the Cheyenne Mountain High School, not thinking that the fire was going to go to the extremes that it did. So we started there doing shelter management. I'm also certified for shelter management, and of course Lacey would come with me. And then I remember it was June 24th when the big fire hit that they didn't expect because of the winds, and then we got a little over 250 people flooding to the shelters. They were evacuating hotels at the time, down on Gardens of the Gods, housing areas. So it became an immediate need that we really, and the police department, nobody really anticipated that because of these winds. So working with that, we learned a lot. Set up all, we had it pretty much ready to go, not for the extent that we did. We had the cots. We had to get more equipment in. The Army was a big help on that. The Air Force was as well. Just taking care of a lot of the people that were being displaced, not only from their homes, but visitors to the area had to be displaced. their pets as well.
And how does Lacey play a part in this?
What we did, once it became a therapy situation, the Red Cross provides clinical psychologists at each of the shelters. So we work with them. It is a very emotional situation. Whether in the Black Forest fire, you didn't know for weeks whether you lost your home or not. A little different for the this is the Waldo Canyon fire. For the Black Forest fire, they learned a little bit from that. So working with the therapists and the families that would just come in there, we would just basically work the shelters, go visit groups of children, groups of adults. If anybody was sitting alone, go up and ask them if they would like a visit. And that's what Lacey does best, as well as, my shelter management kind of is a twofer for us there. But just working those issues, making a little more normalcy of a really stressful, bad situation. Some that they didn't even, you don't know what's going on or what's happening. And we get constant police reports and fire reports. What we could tell the public was a little different, because you don't know anything for sure until it really is over and everything is assessed. So just trying to bring normalcy and calmness to a lot of people that needed care right away. And the interesting thing about the Waldo Canyon fire is not only was that the crisis day that we were setting up there and bringing these people, I actually got a call from the base when I was there. We had to set up a shelter here out at Schriever, and we set it up in our gym. So at that time, I had to leave the shelter. It was like almost 11 o'clock at night, and we came out here to set up our shelter here. Lacey didn't come with me for that. For possible overflows, because at that time they were evacuating the academy dorm residents as well.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome, the experience that you both have with this. We actually got a question from Facebook already from Jim, who wants to know, for you, Dr. Boudreau, is knowing what to do to an injured person a product of your military training?
I would say to a little extent. I mean, 'cause we had the basic first aid training, basically dealing with contingencies and all that. But I would say most of my training, the dominant part of it, came from being a ski patroller. Part of getting certified as a ski patroller, you basically got to go through an EMT course. You're tested, you do a whole bunch of scenarios, and we also get recertified every year on different portions of that. So I've been even taught on how to deliver a baby, and I didn't learn that in the military, obviously. But yeah, most of the expertise that I have is by being a ski patrol and the training that we have to have. So.
Okay. And that actually leads me into another question about training. What type of training does Lacey have?
Well, Lacey is certified not only through the Red Cross, but through her primary certification, which is Delta Pet Partners. Both the handler and the animal have to go through a pretty rigorous training. I have to go through classroom training. Then after that, there's a period of time where you train the dog, and then you have to go through an evaluation to become registered and certified. As far as the Red Cross goes, it is relatively a new program to the Red Cross. I was one of the first involved in it over at Fort Carson, where the Red Cross developed the pet therapy program at Evans Army Hospital. Then you have to go through the training over at Fort Carson for their hospital training, their evacuations, emergency procedures. And the hospital part, of course, is learned through your therapy type training that you do. But once you're certified, we're also not only with Delta Pet Partners, we're American Humane and the Red Cross as well.
Okay. That's pretty awesome. I would like to thank Jim again for his question about training. We really appreciate it. If you have other questions or if anybody has questions, please leave your questions on facebook.com/Schriever Air Force Base, and we'll get to your questions. For both of you, this is actually a question for both of you. Was there a moment throughout any of the times that you've done your volunteer, throughout the times that you were in these instances where you didn't think that you would get involved?
I'm always involved. In fact, my boss describes me, I always look for problems, and I want to solve them. And I mean, that's just my nature. I'm kind of a high energy individual. So, and I guess an analogy is, there's happy people and there's sad people. The sad people tend to focus on the sad things, and I happen to focus on the happy stuff. And there's all kinds of good stuff all around you. You just got to look for it. It's there, and enjoy it. So, is that a good answer?
It is. It's a pretty good answer. Ms. Welch?
And I sort of feel the same way. I knew through my training and through just personal being caring for people through my career, when people need help. I was at the Waldo Canyon Shelter even before I was recalled to be at the Waldo Canyon Shelter. When we first opened there, just seeing what I could do to help. Of course, they needed me there to help set up and do everything, and then it became an instant pet therapy situation that really wasn't anticipated, but we come as a team, and we're there when we needed, visiting at Evans Army Hospital, the family wards especially. Lacey's actually been there for the birth of 2 demised children, which to that family meant everything. And of course, the doctors will say, hey, could you come down here? This lady really wants you to be here with her. And, certain people love dogs. Dogs aren't for everybody, we know that. But when you go there, the doctors and the nurses know when they want you there. For these 2 patients, it was very interesting for me. For Lacey, it was very normal for her. Doing what she does the best is providing that comfort, a little less stress and anxiety. She went through a little pain herself because one lady wouldn't let go of her. But
Mine.
that's part of her training, and she accepted it. So it's just being there at the right time and being there when you know you're needed.
Why do you volunteer? You as a ski patrol and you with the American Red Cross, I mean, what drives you to do it?
It's actually fun helping individuals, it really is. And it's really, I guess, very self-rewarding on helping individuals and doing the right thing. So this was just, when this situation happened, and as I mentioned earlier, this is the 4th time that I got credit for saving a life here. You just kind of jump in and do what needs to be done. And then, you don't worry about your personal safety or anything like that. It's not even a factor. You just want to do what needs to be done. And that's really where training plays a role. To get back to the question with Jim, a lot of training for emergency care in any situation. You're just focused on taking care of the situation. And that's what your goal is, like mission oriented. I gotta fix this. Okay.
And why do you volunteer?
Basically, like Dr. Boudreau said, it is a self-satisfaction volunteering. Just knowing that you can help people, for me, is very rewarding. Whether it's in New York City after the floods or after the Boston Marathon, which our unit went out there to help as well. Helping the wounded warriors, helping their families, even helping people during our recent furlough situation. It's a very stressful situation where families don't understand, what's happening and how they're going to make it. Just being there to help people, it's a great satisfaction for everybody.
Can I actually pet Lacey?
Absolutely.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Lacey, can you sit? Lacey, sit. Yeah. You want to come
Do
over
you want to
here?
come over there? Okay. Oh, Lacey.
She'll shake your hand.
Can you shake my hand, Lacey?
She will. Lacey, shake. Lacey, shake. There.
I can do it.
Lacey both does verbal and hand cues.
Thank
So
you.
if there's a time where we have a deaf person, Lacey down. When we have a deaf person, Lacey down. Where you can just do the hand cues, you can teach it down. Lacey down.
Do you feel that Lacey likes doing what she does?
Lacey loves doing what she does. Lacey's a different dog when she has her vest on. She knows she's going to work and she has a different demeanor about her. She has her puppy moments, usually when she doesn't have her vest on. But she knows when we're getting ready to do something. We have a routine, whether it's trimming her nails, brushing her teeth, but it's the vest and going to the car. She knows and she knows she's doing her work. When she's in a hospital or an office setting like this, she's very mellow. She's pretty typically mellow anyway, but like I said, as a dog, she has her puppy moments.
I'll let you snore and hear it.
Yeah.
One of the things, the main reason why we're doing this is because it's one of the comprehensive airman fitness themes. And socially fit, we feel that volunteering and all that makes you a very social being and makes you very socially fit. How do you feel that our audience can become more socially fit and involved like you guys are?
Volunteering is just phenomenal. You really, it's giving and not taking. You know, I mean, that's really what it's all about. You get so much self-satisfaction out there that you made a difference. It's just great. You know, when it's all said and done, you know, years when you're retired, sitting in your rocking chair, you can say, I made a difference. You know, I really helped a lot of individuals or impacted lives that are out there. So it's phenomenal. It's great.
Yep, and being for therapy, part of pet therapy and pet animal assisted therapy is social interaction, where they can help people become more socially engaged and more community involved just by the nature. Many people that we help want to know how they can help us, how they can help the American Red Cross, where they've just lost everything in the Black Forest fire. They see this as a great service and like, how can they get involved? So sometimes it's a very contagious thing, wanting to volunteer. Some people think they don't have time. I used to be one of those people, and I don't know how I find all the time I do sometimes. But it's just a matter of serving your community and being there during the time when you're needed and being there when you're not needed. So just knowing you're available.
Making an impact.
Yeah.
Just want everybody to know that if you still want to ask some questions, so we still have time, go to facebook.com/Schriever Air Force Base and you can ask a question. The community and getting involved and actually getting a part, becoming a part of these people's lives. Dr. Boudreau, are you still in contact with?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we've become friends, and we're determined I'm going to take him skiing one of these days. You know, I went and seen him a couple of weeks ago, and he's really doing fine. You know, and obviously he went through a huge ordeal. I mean, basically had to rebuild his body, lots of plates and screws and all of that. But he's really doing well, and he's actually looking forward to going back to work. Hopefully, November timeframe, he's going to be back in work. So
That's awesome.
what a wonderful family. You know, first time I met his wife, we were in the hospital. You know, oh my God, she hugged me and said, you know, I can't believe what you did. And she says, I am so happy to see you here in the hospital and not in the morgue. You know, I mean, and then when I went over to visit him at his house, he had a little daughter that was maybe 12 or 13 years old. Thank you for saving my dad. Oh my God, that was huge. You know, that was huge. So.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And Ms. Walsh, I'm certain that Lacey and both of you have touched the lives of many of the people, all the people that you come in contact with. How are the relationships? How are those relationships?
Well, what we do, we provide service at the time. We don't advertise like the personal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what we do is medical, therefore I'm under a lot of HIPAA agreements.
Okay.
Just like doctors, and we have to go through all the HIPAA training as well. So you don't really maintain the personal relationships after it. However, we do have the nursing homes. There's a lot of personal relationships that do develop. But there's a lot of stories that you can remember, such as Wounded Warriors, one battalion that came home to Fort Carson. They go through Walter Reed. This unit lost like 8 members at the time. 4 of the very seriously wounded were on Walter Reed for a period of time. Then they come back to Evans in the family ward, and they set up the ward for them so they can recuperate with their prostheses. And a lot of them, of course, are PTSD patients. So there's a lot of wounds out there. They're not just physical, but there's a lot of mental wounds that you can't see. So it's those type of stories that kind of touch you, that want you to continue to do what you're doing, and knowing you're making an effect on a lot of people, whether it's helping them learn to walk or taking care of an emotional need that they have that they try to forget or things like that.
Well, that actually brings me to another question. There is a time when this could be pretty difficult for you. How do you get through that? How do you overcome that?
Difficult as far as emotion goes?
Yeah.
Well, after this instance, when I was driving up to Ski Cooper, I thought, oh my God, you know, when you really put everything together, I could have been killed. You know, I came so close to getting killed. But, you know, the ironic thing is, or actually the good thing is, even though consciously I was paying attention to everything that was going on, I didn't really feel like I was in danger at all. I was just focused on getting this guy off the road and getting him the medical help that he needed and all that. So, and it really worked out quite well. So, you just, you know, it's kind of putting the individual's well-being above your own, which, wow. So.
And we actually, before I continue, we actually have a question from Facebook. Melissa wants to know, are there therapy dogs like Lacey available for adoption when she retires?
Well, Lacey is a dog that she'll retire when she's no longer able to do it. However, there are agencies out there, I think she's probably looking at more of service dogs.
Okay.
Lacey isn't really considered a service dog. She provides a service because she does animal-assisted therapy as well as animal pet therapy. But there are numerous organizations out there that do adopt these dogs out. There's quite a few in Colorado. The best thing to do is to go to Google and even just Google therapy dog adoption, service dog adoption, and it'll lead you to numerous sites that do this. Now, Lacey is a former hearing impaired trained dog. She was originally trained up at the men's prison in Denver for the hearing impaired. So her and her sister were both in the program, donated to the program by a veterinarian, being developed for the hearing impaired people, which is part of the reason Lacey has the great demeanor that she does. She's a very quiet dog. She's a non-barking dog. She's had some former training in that. Lacey's situation, she did not quite make that program, which I'm glad for. She did not make the hearing impaired program because Lacey likes a lot of affection. Right now, of course, she's under control, and she knows when she's working, she listens to me. But Lacey's not a dog that'll work and go down and sit in the corner and wait to be called up. She will go around the room like she did with all the people in this room, and she'll work the room. She wants to meet everybody, and that's part of her nature. But when she didn't make that program, they transferred her down to the women's prison in Canyon City. Now, Canyon City has a wonderful program. It's called the Canine Companion Program, where people can adopt dogs, and we've had a lot of my coworkers adopt dogs as well from this program. Knowing that they adopt dogs down there, they hold some dogs for possible therapy and service dog as well. She was put up for adoption, and I just happened to be the lucky one to be there first and to be accepted by the program to adopt her. So she was an adopted dog, and down there they do train them for obedience. So she comes fully obediently trained, and she was just the perfect dog to put through therapy training because of her former training as a service dog for the hearing impaired. So kind of all worked out well, and it's something I always thought about doing, where all dogs aren't made for the program. There's certain things where you're banned for life, like if you growl and bark, you're banned for life from a certain program. And an aggressive bark. Dogs that are grown for guard dogs or attack dogs are banned from the program. So, not every dog is a good therapy dog, and not all people want therapy.
Even if they tell you, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, there is no forgiveness for
I didn't mean to growl.
for an angry growl and bark that's aggressive. They don't take the chances. Because we're insured as well through these companies as well. When we do work in hospitals and with people, it's an insured type program, so it's not my personal insurance. It's the companies we work with, their insurance. If something happens to a person with a dog, that's why she's rated as a complex rated.
Nice. Melissa, that was a great question, and we really appreciate it. Oh, well, it looks like I'm getting a cue that says that we have to wrap it up. I appreciate both of you for being here today and being a part of this interview and telling everybody about the great things that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
I want to give you a round of applause again. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, and I appreciate everybody out there who tuned in today to talk to these folks and to hear about all the things that that's happening with them. Next week, we'll be discussing physical fitness as a component of Schriever Tough. And we'll be talking with First Lieutenant Nicholas Guadaluthari, an all-around Air Force athlete, and Captain Colin Marin, who climbed Mount Everest, right? Submit your questions now to Schriever Air Force Base Facebook page, and we'll answer it here live with those two folks. If you have a story that needs to be told or have questions that you want to see answered, give us a call here at the Public Affairs Office, and we'll get right on top of that. If you have more questions for Ms. Wash or Dr. Boudreau, please ask them on our Facebook page, and we'll take a couple minutes after this interview goes off to answer those questions and put them up on Facebook so you can see them. I just want everybody to know, Staff Sergeant Patrice Clark with the 50th Space Wing Public Affairs Office. And always remember, we'll make you famous.
Yeah,